Well, hello, welcome to July 14th, 2022. My name is Kurt, and this is my daily Good Life meditation video. This is my effort to remember and recount and to work on my life objectives and principles, and to see how I'm doing applying these to the last day and to plan for the coming day. First, last night and yesterday. I feel surprisingly rested, although I did wake up before the alarm. I kind of woke up like an hour before the alarm and just laid there, not worrying or fussing really, but just kind of laying there thinking of nothing. And then I went back to sleep and woke up with the alarm. Whenever I wake up with the alarm, that's a better day, which is interesting to remember 10 years ago when I always woke up with the alarm. Never had a touch of insomnia. I wouldn't say that I woke as well as I did today. I guess it's maybe the appreciation of the good night's sleep, or maybe just in some relative sense things are better all around. Could be both. So that was nice. As for yesterday, it was a trudge day, as I had suggested yesterday morning. I plowed through the whole day, got a lot done. Didn't feel like a particularly productive day. It was a trudging day. Yeah, that's what it was. Good trudging day. Maybe that's why I feel good. Yeah, maybe. As for anything else, Yumiko and I were watching last night together a video on YouTube about selling on Amazon, which we want to learn about. We had the experience before of having our business in Japan, which was actually doing good. It was starting to actually take off when at least I like to tell myself that, when the economy collapsed in 2008. So anyway, we're thinking about doing something like that again to try to get ahead on our next life adventure dream. Going back to Japan. We'll need the money to buy the house. Because our retirement will largely be facilitated through our pension and our Social Security. So our savings will largely go into our daughter's college education, so we'll have to replenish those savings to buy the house in Japan that we want. That's why we're looking for something under $100,000. So we're thinking about maybe Amazon selling tea. Yumiko has her family are tea farmers in Japan, or they were largely, and but she has connections over there, so we can get tea. I have an idea of making our own brand. Anyway, tomorrow I'm going to spend some time looking into that. Use my day off tomorrow. So, otherwise, let's do this, the Good Life meditation. Let me have a sip of my tea first. First 7 objectives. These are, number 1, to be always ready to die, to have my life affairs, my relationships, and my life's work in order and ready for my departure. And I think I do. Number 2 is to make good and effective use of my time, to not work or move or live too quickly, but to in a sense, trudge. Number 3 is to develop and maintain good and sound life principles, to curate, tend to what I think I should be doing and how I should be doing it. Next is the cultivation of good emotional reactions. To become a person who reacts well to life, particularly to the challenges, who doesn't fly off the handle, and who can maintain my balance. Next is to is to perform good actions. Sorry, I got distracted with a thought. A little thought floated up in my head. It's funny how that does that, like a squirrel. It's like, whoa, what? You lose track of what you're doing. Little thought that needs some tending. Not the time to tend to it now, though. Isn't it funny how those things, our minds can throw us for a loop like that? Okay, next is to perform good actions, just to do good things throughout the day. And where good things are defined as activities and decisions which help to pursue the well-being, the improvement of the well-being of creatures, particularly thinking creatures, to help reduce and relieve suffering. Next is to recognize my true limits and my true opportunities, so that I'm using my time to pursue things that are actually possible within the scope of my control and ability and reach, and not spending time on things that are outside of those things. Next is, and finally, the last objective is to do just one thing at a time, and to do that thing slowly and deliberately and carefully, just as I'm doing right now. In fact, the way that I'm speaking and moving and being right now is pretty much precisely what I'm trying to do in that regard. To become measured in my speech, careful in my choice of words, deliberate in my efforts, and mindful of my reach. I like the way that came out. My brain chemistry seems in good balance this morning. I wonder if I'm going to mess it up with too much coffee, but I need the coffee. I've got a presentation this morning to do, which I can do. Okay, next is my 30 principles. And these are as follows. Number 1 is the principle of war. To be at arms whenever I confront what appears to be truth, or something masquerading as truth that wants to be regarded as truth. I need to fight with it to make sure that it's not false. Number 2 is the principle of reason, and it has 3 sub-principles, which are honesty, objectivity, and doubt, which are the frame of mind that I want to have as I work to be a reasonable man, particularly in the pursuit of truth, the aforementioned war on truth. 3 is the homunculus, the suggestion that the idea of a soul is nothing more than a dream, a wish and a hope for some sort of forever and immortality, to get past our pain. That there is no soul. There's absolutely no good evidence to suggest that's the case. But what we clearly do have is a consciousness, this thing that I'm operating by which, at this moment, navigating this animated bag of bones through 70 odd years of life. So I do have a consciousness, it seems, but that consciousness is doomed. It's going down with the ship with me. That's the next principle, which is called the Anchorhold, the suggestion that the consciousness is trapped right up here between my ears and behind my eyes. It can't get out. And there's lots of consequence to that. Next comes the principle of purpose. No, I always do this. There's particular points in this in the recitation of this creed that I stumble, and this is one of them. The next principle is the home of good and evil. The mere idea that good and evil are just opinions that we develop and maintain and share with one another. These ideas don't exist out in the universe. The latest Jack Webb Space Telescope, or the first Jack Webb Space Telescope images were released this week, and I got a good look at the deep, and I didn't see any good or evil or God far, far back in the universe. It's just swirling gas and atoms, and churning energy and motion in a void. Now comes the principle of purpose. There are three sub-purpose in my worldview, purpi, if you will. These are: 1, biology, which is just my shorthand term for reproduction, the act and effort of making and raising a child, at least one, because family is good and we need it. 2, the purpose of virtue, which is my endeavor, as stated before, to live a virtuous life, to be a virtuous human being, where virtue again is defined as the efforts towards the improvement of the well-being of thinking creatures. And then mission is the last one. My mission is to complete and promote and share the story of in my book, Going Alone, and the resulting Good Life Creed, the very thing I'm talking about right now. This video is, in fact, part of my mission. Well, this video, in fact, is the part where I live, where I eat my own dog food, where I live the life that I outlined for myself in my book. Interesting to think about it that way. Okay, next is the atomic principle. Everything is made of bits and pieces, atoms and molecules animated with energy, and all of it's falling to pieces. Entropy, the second law of thermodynamics, has its way. Then comes the principle of nature. Everything has some particular nature, including animals and plants and inanimate things too, of course. And it's good to identify what that nature is and to live in, if not abiding the nature of things, at least living in recognition of what that is. I had a talk yesterday with a coworker who is struggling a bit with the nature of our workplace. He won't. He'll find better peace. I mean, there's no case. I mean, it's good to want to change things, but he'll find better peace in some degree of acceptance of the way things are. I mean, he can, like the way I do it at work is, the scope of my control is the things that I've been assigned, I have influence over, and the interactions that I have with others, wherein I can execute and demonstrate my behavior and values, and witness the behavior and values of others and learn from or be admonished by their example. This is the scope of my control. And I work to improve. I work towards virtue and maturity in that forum. Using apathy to disengage where my reach can't reach far enough. To instead focus my efforts on the areas where I do have influence, and then hope for some sort of propagation out, maybe, which it does. Okay, enough on that. Next comes the principle I call the pirate ride, which is the idea and suggestion that free will is an illusion. We're not really free. We are jostled and pushed and determined by the events in the universe. Not any consciousness necessarily, except maybe the consciousness of our fellows who seem to have some influence on us, but they don't have any free will either. It's all a kind of a system of dominoes falling over, rivers and turning in the course of their stream beds, seemingly eking out new bits of stream bed, but only doing so under the mechanical influence of gravity and time. So to us, we eke out our own stream bed of life. Very little, if any, self-direction. Well, it sure does seem like we have self-direction. But I just made the choice right now to lick my cup. I had a little bit of coffee on there, so I licked the cup. Wasn't that me choosing to do that? Sure looks like that. It sure felt like that. I even remember making the decision. Yeah, I know. I'm practically convinced too. Can't test it though. Can't go back in time and rewind. But I suspect that I would have made the same choice under the same. In fact, I think it's it's outright. I don't even need to convince myself or anyone else that if the universe was to rewind in exactly the same way, all things, all events, all motions, all minutes, seconds, and decisions prior. Well, I shouldn't say that. All things prior, the same way, I would have licked the cup again. Because everything would have led to that. All the universe sounds so highfalutin. Not conspiring, but driving towards that moment. And this moment again, I take it on faith. It's the one point of faith and deep weakness. I mean, sure, there's other deep weaknesses, but this is the one glaring deep weakness in my Good Life Creed, is that I take that we have no free will as an article of faith. I just believe it because I'm convinced. You'd think that fact would free me, but it doesn't. That's wired too deep. I'm wired too deep to believe that I have control. Okay, next is the principle of maturity. And the sub-principle of principles of wisdom and fortitude. We are mature when we wisely remember our past efforts, our successes and our failures, and can leverage that information to do better in the future. Next comes the social principle. We need each other. We need friends and family and community, co-workers, and some sort of a driving sense of binding connection. A purpose of sorts. A purpose of us. Okay, next comes the principle of public speaking. Reminder to be careful in my deliberations, my utterances, my deliberations as well, but my utterances. To use few words and carefully chosen words and deliberate words, and to never ever gossip. Next comes temperance, the suggestion to be very careful about my consumption, to eat less, drink less, work less, play less, or if not less, for its own sake, at least moderation, so that I'm living a low impact life, small footprint. A stealthy life. I kind of like that. A stealthy life. Okay, next is the horror show. Wait, did I go over the sub-principles of temperance? I did not. Temperance has 3 sub-principles: suffering, simplicity, and apathy. Because we suffer when we deny ourselves what we want. A simple life is a temperate life. And apathy is our ability to recognize what is beyond our reach and to let it go. Next comes the horror show, a simple reminder that life is a horrible, scary place. It's amazing to talk to the old people at the park, the dog park. They talk so frank and right in your face. The woman I was talking with over the weekend at the park with her dog. And they just jump right in. And she told me about taking her other dog to the vet and how they found that the dog had cancer. And we were talking about vets, because I mentioned to her that this community seems to not have enough vets, that they're busy. It's like, I described it like a McDonald's drive-through, right? I mean, there's just so many people with pets that need help, that not enough vets, and so it's like a machine. And she described how her experience with her euthanizing her dog, longtime companion that they brought in and determined that it had cancer, and the doctor had recommended, euthanizing the dog right then and there, which this old woman agreed to. And she said that the doctor didn't even bother to, the vet, I don't know, she didn't describe it that way, but that's the way I kind of got it. And she said it with such a frank tone. Yeah, she wasn't mad. She was just so numbed by the horror show, I think, that she was just describing it as like a piece of fact. The dog it was a big dog, sitting on the vet's table, and they agreed to put it down, and they did so right away. And the doctor took out the needle and very unceremoniously, right, next patient's waiting, do you want fries with that? Stuck the dog, injected the thing, and the dog was sitting up, just killed over and slammed down on the table. Bam! Dead. Talk about horror show. Jeez Louise. So I didn't push for details. I didn't want her to have to linger on this horrible memory, which she brought to my attention as like a matter of fact, which I think some old people do. But I was taken aback. I to my mind, I was like, I would just imagine if I was the vet, I would at least try to, soften the moment somehow, try to get the dog on its belly or something like that, have it lay over. Maybe that was impossible. Do you want fries with that after all? Next patient. Oh boy, the horror show. It's all around us. And it's maybe, for some of us, it's here now. If not, it's certainly coming to a life near you and me soon. All right. Next comes that which must be borne, the next principle. And what we have to bear is the fact of the horror show and all of the responsibilities that we carry. It's what we bear. Bear it well, do our best. Take on these responsibilities carefully, deliberately. I know it's tough when you're young because you take them on willy-nilly, thinking that it's just part and parcel of our life, and that we can take on anything. We do have our limits. Next comes the Feast of Offal, which is a weird term that I use to describe what happens when we lose our cool and we get frustrated and let that frustration vent out into the world. It hurts others. It stains and spoils others, spoils them in terms of like spoiled milk. It makes them sour. And it makes them more inclined towards their own episode of upset. So I try to hold in my own upset. I'm getting much better at it. And contrary to what I was once taught when I was young, bottling stuff in doesn't necessarily mean that it explodes. Other times, serenity now does not lead to insanity later. It's per the Seinfeld episode. It is possible to bottle things up, and then to just take it, get on with life. It's the bearing of the weight. It's the carrying. It's the trudge. It can be done. Anyway, I don't want to suffer my family to hurt by my expression of my own hurt. It doesn't mean I don't share it. I do so. Especially with my wife, I'll tell her in subtle and appropriate moments when I'm having a tough day, and she can tell anyway. But I don't explode in front of her like I used to when in my 30s. I was prone to do that. Thank goodness I got over that before Emily became old enough to really. She did see it a little bit when she was small, but I didn't. Largely got over that by the time she was in school age. I was never violent, but I was expressive. People knew it when I was upset. I don't do that anymore. And I don't engage when other people do it either. I will engage. I will be there for them. I'll offer a tissue and a shoulder to cry on, but I won't internalize it. Someone else's upset into the world will, flow around me like like water going around a rock in a stream. For the most part, at least that's what I try to do. I don't internalize it because I know it's not healthy. Anyway, that's the Feast of Offal. It's an important principle. Tricky one to describe well, though. Okay, next comes two principles that go together. Distraction, and then the principle called agency and the great indifference. And they go together because we spend our lives distracting ourselves from something, and that something is the seeming fact of a universe without God, more namely, an unguided, undirected, aimless universe, or aimless, the unguided, undirected, with the exception of the mission to propagate, to procreate. Universe without God. Our lives are without that. We're on our own. We don't want to see that because it's scary, and it means that death is forever. So we distract ourselves with all kinds of stuff. We keep ourselves busy with our work and our play and our gossip and our TV shows and our music and our hobbies, bowling and going to church and praying to God. It works. And then we busy, and then the horror show arrives and we've got cancer and we're dead. And we've got to spend our whole life not worrying about the seeming emptiness between the stars. Lucky us. Not for me. I want to think about the emptiness between the stars, and I want to apprehend that fact. It's what my book Going Alone is all about. That's why I call it Going Alone. It's getting away from the distractions to witness that emptiness. I need to spend more time promoting my book. It's a part of the mission. Okay. After those two principles comes the best seat in the house. A reminder to strive to be all right with who I am, where I am, and what I'm doing right now. And then the next principle is the Path of Wildness, which is a way to transition from one life episode, one chapter to another. Stepping up on the path and moving through uncertainty, letting ourselves be guided a little bit by our gut feelings, and passing into another life. Yumiko and I are getting onto that path now as we prepare for our 5th Great Life Adventure together, return to Japan. It's going to take years to do, but we'll do it if we survive it, if the horror show doesn't take us first. Next comes the risk of avoiding risk. There are 2 broad categories of risk in life. The surface level risk includes 5 things that we need to address. One is our education, then our career, and then our getting a partner, a spouse to live with and spend our life with and build a family with, and then a home and security. And it's more typical for us to address these things because our whole society is built along those lines, guiding us towards taking these things on and supporting us. Whole institutions of banking and finance and education and support and family and etc. Church and everything is all built around that security and foundation of creating a life of education and career and home and family and safety. However, that path alone can leave us with a rumbly grumbly deep inside. You can hear my stomach rumbling because I'm hungry. Yeah, you get hungry for something else too, which is, who am I? What am I? Why am I here? Who am? What's this? What the hell? What the hell? I like that. What the hell? What the hell? We address the what the hell by getting on the path of wildness and going out and having a great life adventure and, dealing with that. The best time to do that is after college. Maybe a little bit during college too, but then after college, bring the diploma home, give it to mom and dad. Say, here, watch this for me. I'll need it in 5 years, and then off you go. Spend the next 5 or 6 years in the world, having a great life adventure. Come back when you're 30. Then you can get your degree, get a job, start your career. You'll come back bruised, broken, scarred, and broke, sunburned, maybe dead. Will it have been a bad death? I don't think so. But you will have addressed what I consider the deep risk, the deep level risk beyond these 5 things. Down below is the risk of attending to ourselves, to doing something about that churning sound within our gut. Then you've got your story. Then you can get on with the career and the home and the wife or the husband or father or family and security. Having mollified whatever it is that was growling within. Some people seems like they don't feel that growling. Lucky them, I guess. But if you do feel it in your early 20s and you don't do something about it, there's likely a price to pay later. And it gets increasingly difficult to do something about it later. Opportunities do pass. Okay, after the risk of avoiding risk comes the next principle, sin and damnation. There are 7 sins in my worldview, broadly speaking, 3 categories. One is being untrue. The next category is doing things that are being untrue is being a liar. Or next is believing things that are untrue. And then the third is gossip. More specifically, these are falsity, credulity, faith, superstition, dogma, authority, and gossip. Engaging in any of those is a sin in my worldview and will result in the immediate consequence of damnation in the here and now, because I don't think there's any damnation to follow or paradise to follow. And that leads nicely to the next principle called complete oblivion, which suggests that this one life is all we get, and that after this life is done, we will be dead forever, never coming back. It'll be just like it was before we were born, which is pretty harmless, but we'll never see this again. And we'll, as a result, since there's no afterlife and there's no God and there's no forever and there's no eternal justice, there's going to be no happy reunion with our family members. We'll never see them again. We'll have no chance to reconcile any differences, and we won't see justice served. But neither will we give a damn, because we won't be. It's complete. That's the nature of complete oblivion, after all. Okay, next is the great life adventure, which is one or more experiences in life that help to form our identity. It's the thing that you do when you push off onto the path of wildness, and when you attempt to assuage that deep level risk I was mentioning before. You go on a great life adventure. And you can have many great life adventures throughout life, or even little mini ones over a weekend. But the best ones are the ones early on that involve wholesale, wholesale shifts of life into a new paradigm. that we live through and makes us into something else. It's easiest to do that when you're young and pliable and strong and stupid. willing to make the decisions that will result in the greatest yield and of improvement of our well-being, possibly through a lot of pain. But it's the good type of pain. The good type of pain, eh? What is that? It's the pain that does more than hurt. All right, finishing up the season of philosophy. It's a time to be ready to record whatever words come as a result of the consequence of our well-lived life. I ran out of breath. That was a long sentence. Keep the pen and paper ready. And then next after that is the bullseye aim, striving to hit the mark and usually missing. The uphill climb, a steady trudge forward and upwards in life. The arena and utility. Life is an arena for the development of principles and objectives to use life is an arena for the development of principles to use in the pursuit of the objectives that we also formulate for ourselves. Then comes last two. Second to last is nothing is enough. Whereas temperance suggests less consumption, this principle suggests that peace, even a form of happiness, can come when we can diminish things to very small amounts. Make ourselves small. Make ourselves small. That's it. Okay, the last one is the principle of fun. A reminder that in addition to all of that, to try to enjoy life, to enjoy now, enjoy thinking about tomorrow, and enjoy the remembrance of yesterday. In spite of the pain, in spite of the horror show, and in spite of all the hard work and commitment and responsibilities, have some fun along the way. I'm talking to you, Kurt. You tend to neglect that. Okay, I think I've done it. Got through my Good Life Creed for today. The next thing to do is to plan for the day. I've got a presentation at 8:30, another class that I'm teaching at 10. I think I've got one other meeting. Otherwise, it's not a lot of meetings today. And then my usual trudge to tend to. And then tomorrow's my day off. And tomorrow I think I'm going to have some fun working on the Amazon question. I'm going to work on that. See if I can get that set up, get that figured out. Help to push for Yumiko and I to get to a new life and a new purpose, and maybe even a way to make money to augment our retirement. Oh, and I've been working really hard on my page on my website to describe what I'm going to do, how Yumiko and I are going to pull this great life adventure off. This is the first one of which that I see it coming soon enough that I'm going to document it. Maybe I'll even write more about that. And then also I'm going to spend some time to clean up the Discord. Got a little cluttered over there. Kind of, I think, just too much. Doesn't mean anyone's going to come and write anything or participate, but I need to boil it down. That's my day. That's my plan. And I'll also have a nice walk with the dogs and my wife at noon, and then I'll spend a nice evening with my wife. Boy, she made a good dinner last night. Jeez, that was so good. Anyway, be safe but not too safe. Have a great day.